We're about to meet Hombre.
I knew you were.
He's gonna.
South somewhere, but I couldn't remember exactly where.
That's really his name. Hombre.
Hombre.
Come on in and gather around there and just
Holy.
come on in and meet Hombre here. Okay, 'cause
Alrighty.
they'll be shutting up here. Hey, how are you? Good, good.
Come on in, gather around.
Well, this is some of my gang, Hombre. Come on in.
I ain't doing this with other beer.
Go for it.
Legit. Look at those spells. Woo.
Ombre leather. Crafted by ombre leather.
Holy. This is legit. He didn't quite survive Hombre. That's so great, bro.
She was just talking about what if a buffalo, like he had a buffalo hat, he was a bear.
Dude.
It's interesting how small the eyes are compared to the head.
That's true.
They do have tiny eyes, these guys.
Almost like Brother Bear. So those eyes are bigger. They're Disney eyes.
Oh yeah, that's true. But it's funny how small the eyes are compared to the head.
I gotta touch the mouth.
Except for their bigger eyes because they're Disney.
It's the real tongue.
That's.
I doubt it. There's no way that's.
I don't know. You should feel it. It kind of like bounces back.
There's no way they dried that or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, everything else is, you know.
It's not very smart.
Well, he kind of lost his brains.
Okay, guys, let's
Right.
stop shopping and come listen, okay?
I'm sorry.
And then you can shop. Actually, he said start shopping. And
No,
You want to shop, go right ahead. You got someplace you got to go. So you're not going to believe it. Everybody that goes to Rendezvous has a mountain man name or a rendezvous name.
Don't believe this story, guys.
This is a true story. Her name is Pain in the Ass. And I bet you before you're done here, she's going to prove it. I'm Hombre. I do this because I like it. Which is the number one thing you do in life is what you like. Then you have to call it work. So let's go around here and find out, what kind of a character are you going to play?
You play trapper. Trapper.
The trapper.
Trapper or Indian. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm gonna be a St. Louis woman and an Indian woman.
I'm playing Francois Leroux. He's the nemesis.
Trapper.
Same thing, Indian woman and a townsperson.
Trapper.
I'm his bad guy minion.
Oh, minion.
They're not.
Probably not worth it.
Who's listening?
Idiots out wandering around.
Sir, would you hand me those traps off that post right there?
The metal
Metal traps off the front pole. Nicely done.
This is about the size of a muskrat trap, pine marten, small game, fox, coyote, beaver traps are a little bigger than this. These are double set traps. These are squeezed down if the fan is set. You probably ought to pick one of these up before you go and fondle it, because it's probably going to be valuable to you. The audience wouldn't know what size trap, but they would assume something like this would be a beaver trap. I'd like to use a beaver trap that's a little bigger than this one. The number 2 just a 1.5. I've trapped beaver, trapped about everything. I mainly use this for coyotes, mainly a coyote trap. And it's the hardest thing to trap's a coyote. Why would you? What's that?
How do the foot get stuck? The whole the leg.
Oh, when this goes shut,
In somewhere?
this is squeezed down.
Yeah.
These jaws flop open, and this little pan hooks like that, because this is up, holds this lever in, and when you put something in that pops it, I mean, I'll take your finger off right there. If your finger's in it, it pops it. So you put both feet on it, drop it down to your heels. And some of them had a trap setter. Now, modern trappers will get a trap setter, which you set this on it, pull a lever over and it squeezes these down. So these are pretty hard to squeeze. You got to stand on them to squeeze them. But when that's set, when it goes off, it's instant. The beaver had to be trapped underwater to drown. Otherwise, you chew his leg off, it'd be gone. So the stick was pounded in the ground, so that trap went down on the stick, he couldn't come back up, he drowned himself. His instincts go down in the water when something in pain, go down in the water to get into his beaver lodge. Anybody ever seen a beaver dam? Ever seen a beaver lodge? The beaver lived underneath that lodge. Beaver were trapped spring and fall. Summer the hides were bad, and in the winter the pond was frozen. They lived underwater. They would grab willows by thousands and stick willow branches all over the bottom of the pond so they had something to eat in the winter. Wow. Willow branches stayed green, soft, and fresh underwater, had something to eat. And they went underneath the lodge from the bottom. Or they went underneath the big dirt bank and built underneath the dirt bank where they could get into it. And sometimes it would, some trappers, they got ambitious, and Indians did a lot, was to break open the top of the lodge and it's club the beavers before they get away. But anything for a hide. Most of the valleys in the west that you see that are level in the bottom of the beaver, that's left over from the beaver. I mean, the rivers didn't flood down below because the beavers dammed up all the water. So there was not a big, massive flood. You know, high water lasted a short time. Now we don't have any beavers. You got to build dams to block up the big parts of water, but we dammed every little creek. Beavers dammed up everything. Why would you trap a beaver? I'm going to go over some of this you guys heard a little bit. Why would you trap a beaver?
Pelts.
Money.
Skins. Money. Yes.
You're worth $5. Start out with. That market tapered off by 1832 or 33. It was starting to drop. By 38, it was about history. Silkworm saved the beaver. The Hudson Bay Company, the British had all of Oregon Territory, which was from here northwest to the Canadian border now. It was all Oregon Territory. And Hudson Bay Company knew they were going to lose that territory to the United States below the 49th parallel. And their goal was to make the Oregon Territory of the United States a fur desert. Get them all. They weren't big on trapping. The Hudson Bay Company didn't have their own trappers. They relied on the Indians. And they didn't care how they got the beaver. Kill, maim, whatever it took. Whatever it took. If white trappers had beavers, kill them. Take the beavers. Blackfoot Indians were great for it. They were called Bugs Boys by the trappers. And they raised hell. Every trapper was afraid of the Bugs Boys. Because here come the Blackfoot. And they were not nice folks. They just weren't nice. Due mainly to the British influence. Okay? But the hides were $5. A couple of you guys heard this before. But you get $5 for a hide. You could skin 6 beaver a day if you were busy. If you trapped, clean out your traps, set new traps for tomorrow, and take the beaver back and skin them. The hide on the beaver has to be cut off a little bit at a time. They're not fast. So 6 was about maximum. A trapper never had more than 6 traps. There's no reason to. You couldn't skin 7. So you set 6 traps, clean them out. Hopefully you had them full. So you maxed out at 6 beavers a day if you could get a beaver every day. Or if it was storming too bad you couldn't go. Or if you were out of food you had to hunt. Or all those other things. And when you're in there, you're bent over looking at your trap, you had to look because there might be somebody back with an arrow to stick it in you. You know, it was not a great work environment, but it was fun, you know, because there was no rules, there was no boss. You're on your own hook. It was great. There were 2 kinds of beaver trappers. Those that worked in the brigades for the fur company, and they were supplied like they were given the traps, all the stuff on credit, gun, shot, powder, knives, beads for trade, you know, arrowheads for trade to the Indians, and then when it came time to trade off their beaver hides, they had to pay that bill back. They worked for the company. The fun trapper was the free trapper. He went on his own. He was on his own hook. And he trapped as much as he could, and then he went and traded. He got that money, kept it. The rendezvous system only lasted 15 years, 1825, 1840. In the rendezvous system, the fur companies and the trading companies brought all the stuff out to trade to a site predetermined. You know, and a lot of it was one here, Pierre's Hole, which is over the top of the mountains. There's 3 on the Green River, 4 on the Green River. Willow Valley, which is Cache Valley. There was a predetermined site. It took about a month. It was about a month of partying. Right away, the Indians found out about the trade. They'd already seen the trade goods. They'd already seen metal arrowheads. They'd already seen copper pots for the women. They've already seen metal knives. Already seen metal hatchets. Once they had that, they came to trade too. And there was other people came to rendezvous also. It was a great adventure. So, rich people from Europe came out. Maximilian came out. William Drummond Stewart from Scotland came out 8 times. One time to rendezvous, 8 times he toured the West to see the mass amount of game and these beasts, these giant buffalo and grizzly bears. I tell you, Europe was tame by then. There was nothing left to shoot, and they'd all been to Africa once. Now they came to the American West. They got to see Indians. Nobody in the world had ever seen it like the Native Americans. Anybody ever been to powwow?
None of this guy.
Got to go to an Indian powwow sometime. You really got to go and hear native drum, and hear native singers, and watch native dancers. Powwows are really fun. You learn a lot watching, trying to relive that culture. That culture. The culture in the East Coast Indians wasn't even close to the Plains Indians, the Rocky Mountain Indians. They were savage, according to the British. They lived a rough life. When you want to go get something to eat, you could be killed. Gather the horses, you could be killed. You just gathered horses, and they're wild horses, and they had a lot of horses because they didn't cut them. So every mare was pregnant every year, and they had a lot of horses. And they had a lot of grass. They had to move them a lot. But on top of that, they had to break those horses. So they lost a lot of young boys. A lot of young fellas your age, the younger, were trying to break horses, gather the horses. My favorite trick was to turn the horses loose. Horses seemed to want to graze on ridge tops like elk. So they gathered the horses and came the elk. It was a kind of simple process. Horses were all mobile. It was a mobile food supply. Horses getting old and decrepit. And cut it so to eat it. Eat all the parts. The fun part about the free trapper was being on his own hook. He didn't have a responsibility. He had to do what he had to do. Well, he could only get 6 beaver a day on a good day. That's all he could skin. So what would you do if you wanted to make more money and you're by yourself? Well, you're trapping with 3 or 4 of your friends in a group to kind of save your ass. When you're bending over setting a trap, somebody's got to be watching your backside. Right? So what'd you do? Well, here's how the system basically worked. First of all, you needed clothes. Well, the only way you get clothes, Indian women. That was it. You needed food. You could go ahead and kill someone. Who's going to cook it? You take time out to make your clothes, take time out to cook your food, take time out to gather the fire to make your food, take time out to build a lodge to live in. That's all cuts into your beaver trapping, right? Indian family has so many boys and so many girls that have lived through childbirth, and the boys get killed. You guys get killed. Hunting, fighting, war, especially hunting. And especially the life of the boy. He was the tough guy. The women they would serve him to camp. Well, he's got more girls in his family than boys. You got to get rid of them. You can't wait to marry him off. And the trapper came along. He can't wait to have you. And the reason is this. You can have a seat, but I think she's gone. You can get the Indian woman's oldest daughter, and you can trade a kettle to the mother, and a couple knives to the father, and some metal arrowheads to the father, and you get the oldest daughter as soon as she's of age, puberty. And what the trapper gets is somebody to gather firewood, somebody to cook the meal, somebody to make sure his home, whatever they had to live in, is ready. Skin beaver to keep him warm at night. And if you skin beaver 6 a day, now he's got 12 beaver a day. Now he doubled his income. Plus he had more time to trap and hunt. Well, then along comes your younger sister. And I got rights because I bought you, I got rights to you next. To send your sister. Now I get 18 beavers a day. Alternate nights to keep me warm. You don't have to gather the firewood because you little sister's doing it.
Wow.
That system worked well for the trappers. And I know, although the Victorian Society didn't really publish this in books, most trappers had multiple wives. Now, if you decide to go back to civilization, you just left her there. Found your old family and walked off and left her. A lot of trappers kept her. Kit Carson was supposed to have like 7 different wives, besides his wife in Taos, New Mexico, in the house that he owned there.
Wow.
And he tried to they tried to play that down when he tried to become dignified. So he went to the city and had his portrait taken, dressed up, to try to get rid of the image that he had a lot of wives scattered around. Like the modern joke about the traveling salesman, woman in every well, somehow along the line, somebody had to be taken care of. And if you spend your life trapping beaver, where are you going to get your food? You got to go shoot it. That was your choice. You had to go shoot your food. Remember that. You're always hunting. Just like a wolf. You're always looking for food. Because how are you going to preserve it? I mean, you might have shot a buffalo, and what you got to take of that buffalo to save, if you're alone, isn't much. 2 or 3 trappers together, they're going to munch on it for a while, but it's going to rot before they get it all down. They preserve some, dry some, put up some racks, maybe hang it, maybe cut it in little narrow strips so it'll dry fast, put it on top of sagebrush or chokecherry bushes or something, or maybe put it on a big rack, make out of branches and build a fire underneath and smoke it. Put a lot of smoky wood on the fire, smoke it and dry it up. That's your choice. Lewis and Clark expedition, they figured that the average person on the expedition ate 12 pounds of red meat a day. But the only way you're going to get protein in your life is red meat protein. Beef is the worst, buffalo's the best. And the plains were covered with buffalo and elk. But why did you come out here? Don't answer. You don't answer. Why did you do this to start with besides the money? Freedom. The spirit of adventure. I mean, Lewis and Clark, but there was ads in papers along the Ohio River, stout young men ready for adventure. Well, let's see, I can stay on the farm with Grandpa and Pa, and I might get a chance to marry Molly down the road, my cousin. That's it. That's your choice. And in order to farm that Appalachian Mountains, you had to cut down the trees for the house, and you had to cut up the damn stumps and pull them out of the ground and make some place to plant. That's all you get to do the rest of your life. Or you could be on your own hook and go out west and see adventure. Some people stay in the city. Some people have adventures in their lives. How many of you people live in a city of bigger than 100,000? How many people are going to stay in the city the rest of their life? Probably. Probably.
I'll probably move to a city, actually. That's what I'm going to do.
You don't go to the city, you go from the city. Some people have a spirit of adventure, some people don't. That's just human nature. I mean, if everybody was born in the spirit of adventure, who the hell raised the corn? Right? Who plowed the fields and planted the wheat? Nobody. But some people had to have a spirit of adventure. Don't forget the mentality since Jefferson made the purchase was to find a route to the West Coast. Once it was determined there was another ocean, because we'd already been around the Horn in ships and knew that there was a bottom to these 2 big chunks of land, get to the West Coast. How do you get there? Well, you got to go around. Well, maybe you don't have to. Maybe there's a river. Well, they still looked and looked and looked. Got to the Columbia and everything went. Didn't know there was a continental divide. Did Prayindiah Smith discover the continental divide? He was the first one that decided there was one. He probably talked to Indians. Be my guess.
Yeah.
He sure as hell didn't stand up there. You ever been over South Pass? Who's been over South Pass?
They're going.
Not yet.
Going?
I've been, but they haven't.
And you go up and past the rock pile, you get past the snow fences, and then you get to the Sweetwater River. And you got to remember, when you think you're clear to hell and gone over the mountains, the Sweetwater still flows into Platte, which flows into Mississippi. So you ain't there. So how'd you discover it? When you get past there, and you go up to the Lander side, which you'll do, go up to the Lander side, and you get past the Sweetwater, you're thinking, I'm over. And about another 10 miles, the sign says Continental Divide. Well, the water ran somewhere in the direction. Did Smith discover that the first day he went out? Hell no. But somebody had to realize that if you keep going, that water goes, so where's this water go? Go down to Sandy River, packed trains, wagon trains, love to get to the Sandy River. Will you see it? Don't get your hopes up. This is a trout stream, folks. It don't look good. It's flat ground with a flat river that you can't tell which way it's running, but it's water. It might not be that crystal clear drinking water you get a little bottle at the mini mart. By God, it was water, and your horses could drink it, and the game was around the water. And you could put up a little dirty water drink if you hadn't had a drink in 10 days. But when you get there, you're going to go, how in the hell could they tell? I've been over South Pass 40 times, and I said, how in the hell can you tell? It's flat. It's 7,500 feet in the air. It's flat. You go to Continental Divide in Montana, where I go to the Continental Divide, I go, I mean, an idiot can figure this out. But how did he figure that out? He had to talk to Indians. Where's this water go? Somehow along there, where's this water go? To the Green River. Where's the Green River go? Where did it got to the Columbia? That discovered. What the hell did he go down south and go up the Canadian River for, and go to Bent's Fort and go that way for? Somebody still had to find a route. Somebody had to find a way to get to the Pacific Ocean. Because you had all the ships in the world could sail on the Pacific Ocean and haul goods. And when they discovered the beaver, the gold that was beaver, when that was discovered, how do you get it to market? A long damn way from St. Louis to the Rocky Mountains. The only way they got stuff down there was boats. Bull boats. You ever heard of a bull boat? You ever been in one?
No.
Well, they look like hell. Big old half of a basketball frame out of willows and buffalo hide, just like this, attached to the outside of the thing. Fur out.
Whoa.
The fur soaked with water, it made it stable. Now, when you go there, when you go down, you're going to hit, you're going to go down, when you head down the Green, you're going to hit the Lander. You can hit Riverton. Okay. Riverton, you're going to be on with a Popaji. You'll look at the sign, it'll say Popowagi, Popaji. When you hit the Popaji and it flows into the big and little go together and form the Wind River. The Wind River goes to Wind River Canyon. You're going down Wind River Canyon? Oh, good. And now imagine bull boats going down that son of a bitch. You're going to love this. And then you get down, and when you come out of the canyon, it becomes the Bighorn River. And they floated down there through the Bighorn Canyon, which is now a dam. It's now a 500-foot canyon. I went through there when it was 1,000-foot deep. I went through Bighorn Canyon on a raft before the dam was built. You got to see that.
Dam was built?
Yeah, went through there twice before the dam was built. You go down to Bighorn and hit the Yellowstone, and go down to Yellowstone, hit the Missouri, and that's where they found keel boats to haul the goods. You look on a map and look at Riverton, Wyoming, and look at Fort Union, right on the Montana-North Dakota border, and you look down where St. Louis is, and you think, what a trip. What a trip.
Quite a trip.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Let me just say something. You know, to me, what you're seeing here is a picture of a mountain man in several senses. One thing is, I don't think there's probably a greater distance from them, particularly for the men of this generation than this generation. It's a big difference. Big difference. You've just sat here, you know, kind of enraptured, listening to just a little bit of stories. Well, there was no television. There were no iPods. There were no, you know, cell phones. This was what life was about. He's taking
Pictures.
He's taking video.
This is for records.
But
Otherwise, you'd be done for. He was whacking you up in little pieces.
I asked him,
And gut me like a fish, I know.
What's the first thing you would do, you know, to tell my cast? And he would say, he'd put out a box and say, give me all your cell phones, give me all your iPads, give me all your computers, because you guys don't even know how to talk to each other anymore. And I also want to say this, that the mountain men of this era, these guys were brilliant men. They were cartographers, they were ornithologists, they were, you know, Jedediah studied Latin. They were bright, amazing, brilliant men. And they were historians, and they were explorers, and they were discoverers. And they, you know, one of the questions I want you to just address for just 1 minute, but, you know, what kind of mentality, I mean, this is such a different world from the world you men grew up in. What kind of a mentality does it take to be a free fur trapper? And you have to imagine, there's no refrigeration, there's no doctor, there's no roads, there's no
Band-Aids. There's no Band-Aids.
There's no penicillin.
There's no penicillin, there's no aspirin.
What mentality.
Where did you learn to survive? What if you got out in a snowfield? You ever been snowblind? You ever been snowblind ever? You ever been out in bright snow? You feel how your eyes burning in the bright snow? What'd you do about it? If you did, what would you do if you walked out in a snowfield and the sun's as brilliant as it can get with a clear blue sky before pollution?
Put grease under your eyes.
You took
Put grease under your eyes.
No, you took first. Well, you could blacken to start with, but you took willow and you stripped it. You boiled it best you could over fire and took the juice off that willow and put it in your eyes like eye drops.
Wow.
Where'd you learn that?
Indians.
Well, who the hell was living here? The Indians. Where'd you learn to plug a wound? What'd you do if you got a wound? If you got a knife cut? What do you do about it? Fur. You could take underdown for beaver. You could take milkweed. You could do a lot of things. Just stuff it in that wound and then tie it shut. It would grow together. The Indians had every medication there. They lived here, for God's sake. They survived. 40,000 years they learned how to do this stuff. Who taught them? Well, a lot of times it's trial and error. But when a trapper knew that the red man had the answer, he was the red man's friend. Guaranteed. That you had to have. You had to be the friend of the red man. You had to learn a lot from the red man because he had all the knowledge. Let his generation after generation make mistakes and learn, but the trapper didn't have that kind of time. The difference is, I can guarantee you not one person here could have survived in that time period. But don't feel bad, because that little farm boy lived on a stump farm, had to be able to shoot it ahead of game, clean it out, butcher it, take it home, find a way to cook it. He had to build a shelter. He had to know all these things to start with. You don't. That kid, compared to you, was starting out on second base, and you're not even in the dugout yet. It's not your fault. It's just that that's the way it is. That's the way life goes today. Just to digress, an example is somebody was saying the other day, these damn kids today, they don't have any mechanical ability. When I was a kid, if you wanted to drive your pickup to school or your car to school, you had to fix it. You can't do that now. You cannot open up the hood of a modern vehicle and fix anything. You can maybe put water in the radiator, check the oil. That's all you can do. It's all done for you. So you don't have that advantage. You don't have the advantage of living in a place where you had to find something to eat. You're in the dugout. And these kids start out at second base. That's just the luck. But put yourself in that mindset. What the hell is over the next hill? What's over that hill? Well, you can't just sit in the valley and say, well, I'm in the valley, everything's fine, what the hell's over the next hill? If you didn't have that in your heart to go over the next hill, you never would have made it. You got to see over the next hill. You're not going to learn anything if you're staying in one valley. You got to see over the next hill. Can you imagine coming across the plains and coming across the mountain ranges here? Oh my God, there's the Wind River Mountains. Look how big they are. Oh my God, look at this. And then you look at the Tetons, and you're going, wait a minute. Who put this fence up? And then what in the hell's over there? Is that the path? Is this river the path that goes to Columbia? Well, it was. By God, they got lucky. David Jackson got lucky. Found this place. Some of the guys stayed in the mountains. What the hell did Smith go down there and want to go west from the south? I'm sure that they were looking for a route. It just had to be that desire to find another route. Walker tried to find one in the north for several years and couldn't find it. Well, the trouble is, Walker didn't have to put up the damn Comanches. Smith had to put up Comanches and lost it. That was the end of it. A lot of guys did. How many came back? In the lifespan of 270 some mountain men that they know when they were born and know when they died, prior to 1840, they have 270 some or 268 that they actually know when this guy was born and when he died. Their average lifespan was 68 years old. And the average lifespan in America was 37. Why was that? Mountain man's living out here on his own hook, living in the dirt. The ones that survived were living in the dirt, sleeping on the ground. It was more sanitary than any city in the United States. Let me tell you something. You got to go to the bathroom. You get to flush the toilet. When you lived in the city, you didn't have a flush toilet. What happened then? It built up. Why did Indian villages move? Got to stinking and they moved. Right? Is that logical? Well, the mountain man didn't stay in place very long. Caves up, and what do you do in winter? You can't trap beaver. What are you going to do in the winter? Go south, go to Flagstaff, got a condo in Phoenix, Thermopolis, Wyoming. Go through Thermopolis, show them the hot springs. Water boiling out of the ground. This is warm. I'm going to camp next to the water because that water's warm all year round. There's game next to it year round, and you can live there year round because if you get cold, you jump in hot water. Does that make sense? That's what they did. It was nice there. It was pleasant there. Indians come around a lot of trading. A lot of trappers got killed by the Indians. A lot of trappers lived because of the Indians. And one day they might be your best friend trading. The next day they won't. I'm reading a book now about Daniel Williams Harmon was a buyer of furs for the Hudson Bay Company from the Indians in Canada. As far west as New Caledonia. Anybody ever heard of New Caledonia?
Heard the term, I don't know what it means.
British Columbia.
No.
That became British Columbia. So he'd buy these, and the Hudson Bay Company was really big on getting them Indians drunk because they would trade better. Okay? Indians are trading better when they're drunk. And he tells a story about two Indians that came in, they got drunk, they plied them with liquor, and one of them stabbed his brother, shot his brother in the leg in a drunken brawl. Next day, he felt so bad, he went and got 2 knives from the trader and gave them to his brother. Sorry, I shot you in the leg. Here's 2 knives to make up for it. They couldn't deal with it. The British couldn't deal with that mentality. They thought these people were very savage. Well, they kissed and made up. You know, the fight was a little, I think shooting your brother in the legs a little much, but for us. But I guess they didn't think much of it. They're this far from starvation. The trapper was this far from starvation. You shoot a buffalo, you might feast for 2 days. You might starve for 10. Coming across that country south of the Black Hills, over to the Bighorn Mountains. They're drinking alkali water, getting sick from it. The alkali dust so thick, the horses choked and died on them. Going across northern Nevada, Joseph Walker and the boys, they lost a lot of people. He went over there with 30 some people to California, down to Monterey, came back over to Sierra Nevada, tried to come up with 5 of them came back out of 32 or 36, something like that. They got killed. A couple of them decided they liked that Southern California climate. Who lives in Southern California? Anybody here? Yeah, well, it's pretty nice down there. Compared to the Rocky Mountains in the winter, it's damn near paradise. Some of them stayed there. I would suspect something more would have happened to Dia Smith if he'd have just kept going. If he could have kept going. He was the type of individual that had the heart to look for something new. I mean, trapping didn't appeal to much to him. He quit trapping. But look at Jackson and Sublette. I mean, and Smith, when they made the first fur company, when they decided let's be traders. Trapping's cool. Standing in the water all winter or all spring and fall is not really good. Your legs ache, your bones ache. It's a lot of work. So let's go buy the goods and haul them out here and trade. And so Jackson, Sublette, and Smith, you know, they formed a fur company. John Jacob Astor. Anybody heard of John Jacob Astor? One of the richest men that ever lived. Made his money in the fur business. Made his money in the fur business. Money was there. Built that story. His goal was to take ships around, get the fur down to Colombia or somewhere in a route, get the furs to the coast, take the furs to China, and get salmon off the coast, and take the furs to China, keep the salmon, and bring back spices and silks from the east. And then he figured out that silk would make a hat. Then went to fur business. By 38 it was done, and it didn't, you know, like some people were dead and don't know it. The fur trade was dead in 38, and by 40 it was done for. Wow. But what happened then? All of us they discovered. You get in the Appalachian Mountains. Anybody ever been to Appalachian Mountains? You stick a shovel about that far in the rocks. Well, you get to the Willamette Valley, and you can dig for a day and never get to a rock. This is topsoil to beat all topsoil. And the idea of farming, growing crops, some of the rich western valleys. How do you get there? Well, you can spend 9 months in a boat going around, or you can come across the plains. And Sublette and Jackson figured out you could get wagons. Charrettes, they were called, 2-wheel carts, but you could get wheels across the mountains at South Pass. Dia Smith discovered South Pass, or put 2 and 2 together and realized you could get wagons over that, come up the Platte, all the way up the Platte River, all the way up the Sweetwater, go over the top, and you're there. You know, Portneuf River became a great place to be. You get wagons down to Portneuf, cross the Snake River at 3 Island Crossing, It's the other side of Pocatello. Actually, it's the other side. It's almost to Glens Ferry. Right at Glens Ferry, you had to go down there, get a hold of in the internet and find out when they're gonna have the reenactment of the crossing at Glens Ferry, Idaho. Hell of a deal, 3 Island Crossing. They'll lower the river and try to get hell. I've been down a couple times at the reenactment of that crossing where the wagon trains cross. But how the hell do wagon trains know where to go? How do these farmers know where to go? They hired old mountain men, and they all became guides. Where did the rich people? What did the rich people do when they wanted to see the West? Well, Maximilian hired Jim Bridger. Got a little trouble, burned his wagons up. Maximilian went nuts. They had a little issue there, but that's who you hire. Who'd seen it all? The trappers. They've been over every hill. They trapped down here. They went up there. They heard there's more beaver up here. They went over here. Where's the beaver? Where does beaver shine? Well, we got into Wind River, got some. We would have Three Forks. Where the Madison, Gallatin, Jefferson make the Missouri River in Montana. Well, the trouble is, Bugs boys were there. The Blackfeet. They butchered and slaughtered and killed and maimed and drove John Coulter nuts, and he finally left the mountains for good because of them damn folks. But that's where all the beaver were. In Three Forks, there was a lot of beaver in that Jefferson River. And that whole valley, go to western Montana, go to the Jefferson's formed by the Ruby and the Beaver Head River, and they're all flat valleys. Well, those valleys didn't get flat by themselves. They got flat with beaver dams. When the Bighorn River dumps into the Yellowstone River where Manuel Lisa built the first fort in the west, they said the beaver dams were 2 miles long going across the valleys. That Bighorn Valley, go up that Bighorn River up towards Hardin from the Yellowstone, big flat valleys. The farmers loving it. Man, they love that flat valley. You irrigate like hell because it's flat, because that's silted up the beaver dams. And but they found the route. Well, I know where to go. How do you get a wagon there? Well, hell, we took they know they got them to the Green River because Sublette took them there. So Sublette, Smith, and Jackson and their fur company, they took wagons there. So we know how to get there. Where the hell would Pray and Die Smith be today? He was educated. He had he put together what the Indians told him about South Pass. The biggest discovery they did was South Pass. The most important thing they discovered. How did he get over these mountains? Because I guarantee you come over these mountains and see the Bighorns or the Tetons for the first time. You know, we're going back, Jack. What do? It don't even look like horseback country. It doesn't look like anything. You know, the only thing that's close to that is maybe, we'll get up into Montana and the Beartooth's the same way. But they found a way over it. Well, who's going to take the farmer over? The guy heard about this fabulous fertile valleys in the west in northern California. How do you get there? The farmer didn't know. The trapper did. Made this country. The fur trapper made this country. The first person here, and he made it.
Imagine being out, 1,000 miles away from the nearest town by yourself.
By yourself.
Not for a week or a couple of days, but for a year, 2 years, out free trapping. Once a year, come to a rendezvous, see some other people. You got to be at home with your own heart. You got to learn how to be to enjoy your own company.
Trust yourself and be able to live with yourself. Because when the sun went down, there's no light except your fire. What do? You find a place for shelter. You gather your food. You live simply. You learn how to take care of yourself. And you don't take physical daring chances. The advantage the trapper had was he had a gun. I'm going to have a drink of beer and I'm going to show you something. I want you guys think of some questions. I'm going to go get something to show you.
And then we got to go back in about 10 minutes.
Think of some questions real quick.